Hello and welcome to our young fledgling brand new YouTube channel. My name is Seretse Khama and this is the Today in African History channel for the 13th of July. If you are here for the first time, thank you for joining us. Do not forget to like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on your notification bell. That is only if you do like what we're doing here. So watch this video. I'd encourage you to watch this video till the end so that you will find out what we're on about and what sort of things we discuss and so on and so forth. Okay, if you are a returning visitor, you know the drill. But you haven't subscribed yet, why not subscribe to our channel so that you receive updates of our video uploads. You can only receive notifications if you turn on your notification bell as well. So let's get cracking as we share events that have occurred on this day in history. First, we'll talk about this man in the thumbnail. His name is Wole Soyinka. His full names are Akinwande Oluwole Babatunde Soyinka. He is a Nigerian playwright, poet, and essayist who was born in 1934 on this day. He received the 1986 Nobel Prize in Literature. Additionally, in 2008, Soyinka served as a distinguished scholar in residence at Duke University. He received the Europe Theatre Prize in December 2017 under the category of Special Prize, which is given to someone who contributed to the realization of cultural events that promote understanding and the exchange of knowledge between peoples. Soyinka has been a strong critic of successive Nigerian and African governments at large, especially countries' many military dictators, as well as other political tyrannies, including the Mugabe regime in Zimbabwe. So this is Professor Wole Soyinka, who was born on this day in 1934. He is a bit of a controversial figure in Nigerian politics, especially recently when he made comments about the presidential race and about who should be president and so on and so forth. But notwithstanding, he is someone who is celebrated not just in Africa but the world over for his brilliance as a poet and a playwright and an essayist. So Professor Wole Soyinka, born on this day in 1934. Also on this day, Seretse Khama, the first president of Botswana, sadly passed away in Gaborone. He was born in Serowe, Botswana on the 1st of July 1921. Ngozi, which means King, Khama III, a member of the Bangwato tribe, was his grandpa. Bechuanaland, now Botswana, was governed by him and placed under British protection in the 19th century. He was a member of the Bangwato tribe. His grandpa, like I said earlier, was king of Bechuanaland, which is now called Botswana. Okay, so let's move on to the other event that happened on this day. The year was 2022. Egypt increases pressure on foreign museums to return 5 of its most priceless artifacts, including the bust of Nefertiti in Berlin and the Rosetta Stone in London. Egyptians demand that their artifacts stay in the nation atones, and the colonial master atone for the nation's unfair colonial era exploitation when certain foreign archaeologists wrongfully plundered thousands of artifacts. Well, this issue of the return of artifacts that were carted away by the so-called colonial masters is one that has been going on for decades. after Egypt, I think Nigeria is probably the second most popular destination or would I say destination? What's the opposite of destination now? The word fails me, but it's the second most popular area in which artifacts were carted away to Europe, especially to the United Kingdom. I don't know what the basis of that was. Was it war? We're not at war. Yes, it was colonialism. You came into these countries, took their artifacts, stole their artifacts, and put them in your museums. And these artifacts have been generating revenue for you for decades upon decades, in some cases for at least 1 century. And the people whose land you plundered these artifacts from are asking for the artifacts back, and excuses have been made. Oh, they don't have the right facilities in their countries to store these artifacts. I remember a program that I watched several years ago, how one of the Benin bronzes that were being asked for, I think it was the bust of the Queen, the Queen's bust, and this camera crew went to the museum in Benin and went around and said, "Oh, is this the place where they want these artifacts to be returned to?" Because it wasn't as glamorous as their own museums, they felt that it wasn't justified to return these artifacts to their museums and galleries, which is really unfair. I mean, the budget of these other countries where you've carted these artworks from, they're not as huge as your budgets. They're doing the best that they can. At the end of the day, it's their own stuff. It's their artifacts. So the rightful thing to do would be to return the stolen artifacts to its rightful owners. And they can do whatever they want to do with their artifacts. It's their business. Okay, so that's my opinion. That's my 2 pence, as they say. Okay, so let's move on now to the next event that happened on this day. On this day, this lady called Nadine Gordimer, political activist and writer from South Africa, who lived from 20th November, died on this day in 1914. So 20th November 1923 was the day she was born and the year, and she died on the 13th of July 2014. Now, what is the significance of this lady? She was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1991. So just like Professor Wole Soyinka, there's something about this date. One was born on the 13th of July and the other one died on the 13th of July. Is there something about this date and people being awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature? Okay. Anyway, Gordimer wrote about moral and racial issues, particularly South Africa's apartheid. Books like Burger's Daughter and July's People were outlawed under that dictatorship. Interesting. So maybe those will be the books you would want to check out. July's People and Burger's Daughter. Books about apartheid in former apartheid South Africa. So this lady, Nadine Gordimer, died sadly on this day in 2014. She was a political activist and writer from South Africa. So it's nice of her, you can see obviously that she is a white lady, but she didn't like the apartheid system and wrote about it. So people like this should be celebrated. People like this should be honored and celebrated. Okay, so let's move on now to the other events that happened on this day. The year was 1956, and his name is Bartholomew Nagy. Born 13th July 1956, he is a Nigerian engineer, innovator, and former Minister of Power. Nagy left the university lecturing in 1993 and returned to Nigeria to take up the position of Federal Minister of Science and Technology. In 2000, he established Geometric Power Limited, the nation of Nigeria's first indigenously owned power development firm. So this is Bartholomew Nagy, a Nigerian engineer, innovator, and former Minister of Power, who was born on this day in 1956. Also on this day, the last sitting of an all-white parliament in South Africa took place on this day in 1984. So July 13th, 1984 the last sitting of an all-white parliament in South Africa took place. It's hard to believe that only recently, 1994 was less than 30 years ago. This was 1984, so I beg your pardon. 1984 to 2023. That was less than 40 years ago. The last sitting of an all-white parliament in South Africa took place. So like I was saying, it's hard to believe that recently a country like South Africa that has a majority black population had an all-white parliament. The injustice of it all, that the people would come from outside your country and not just dominate your country but oppress the people, and the people, the indigenous people of that country, do not have access to the same things that you have access to. It just seems so unfair. People have come from outside your country to plunder the wealth of your country, to settle in your country, make a good life for themselves, which is, it's every human being's prerogative to make sure that their lives are good, But what about the local people? What have you done? I know there are a lot of white South Africans who have helped the black South Africans. No doubt. There must have been a lot of them who had a good heart. I'm not talking about those people, well done to those people. But for those who were just there due to their greed to plunder the resources of the country, it is really, really, really annoying. But anyway, so thankfully, the last white parliament sat on this day in South Africa. The year was 1984. In accordance with the South African Constitution of 1983, the final session of an all-white parliament was held on this day in 1984, and the tricameral parliament took office on September the 22nd, 1984. Last but not least, born on this day in 1993 is this young man. His name is Ayola Oladapo Agbola, also known or formerly known as Kido Minant. He is a Nigerian recording producer and disc jockey, best known for producing Davido's hit single Fall in 2018. After Fall earned a gold record in the US in 2020, Kido Minant became the first Afrobeats producer in history to receive certification from the Record Industry Association of America. Cameron Penny, the manager of Pentlight Music, oversees KDDO, so he's now known as KDDO, formerly known as Kido Minant. So happy birthday, KDDO, born on this day in 1993. It's a wrap, guys. Thanks for joining us once more. For those of you who are joining us, those of you who are here for the first time, thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting our young fledgling channel. We hope to see you tomorrow for another edition of Today in African History. Take care of yourselves and each other. Bye for now.